A very good evening to you this Wednesday. Thank you very much for joining us on this episode of Meet the President. It is so good to have you with us once again. As we do every time on the show, we speak to a presidential candidate and seek to understand why they're in the race and what this means for you to help you make better choices or to just help you make a choice 40 days from today. That is on the 8th of August. Tonight, we have independent presidential candidate Dr. Japheth Kaluyu, also known as Dr. Jeff Kaluyu Kavinga. Thank you very much for joining us. It's been a while and we're glad you were here with us. We will get to your profile in a moment. But first, it's just to understand, when you got cleared by the IBC, you sort of disappeared. Where have you been and what have you been up to since then?
First, thank you for having me. And it's a pleasure to even be cleared by IBC to serve the people of Kenya, my people. I did not disappear after I was cleared by IBC. That is on May 29th. I was able to jump onto Citizen FM, that is Musi TV. I was able to take a trip to Kitui. I was able to stop at the bus station and I spoke to people about my 6-point plan. I was able to go to Etoleka. On my trip, I also stopped at my final destination in that direction at Kakuni, where I was actually born, and I was able to be given blessings because I wanted to start at the base. And I was able to get that, and they gave me the permission to go and fight and be able to represent the people of Kenya. So I didn't disappear, but briefly, I needed to go and address a diaspora forum, and speak to my people back there again so that we can be able to move forward together and understand my position, because I'm a diaspora candidate as well, and therefore I need a diaspora to know my stand, what I intend to do, and I'm looking forward.
All right, and yes. The diaspora being in the U.S., where you've been for quite a while. The diaspora being in
U.S., yes, Washington, D.C. area.
All right, so let's talk about then why you're in the race. You're seeking to be the 5th president of the country, seeking to unseat the incumbent, President Uhuru Kenyatta. Why are you running? 5
years ago, I began my journey. I wanted to come to Kenya and discover the needs, the aspirations, the challenges, and the dreams of Kenyans after being in the United States for a while. But after I came, I wanted to actually change their lives because I had read enough, I had seen enough during my visits. But instead of changing their lives, they changed mine. Their dreams became my dreams. Their aspirations became mine. And my challenges became their challenges. Our dreams merged. We began on a journey because in the following subsequent years, I decided to discover what is important to them.
And what is important to them?
We talk about poverty levels. The cost of living was really high, $13.40 per person. Averagely, compared to other East African nations, 590 Ethiopia with 99 million people compared to our 45 million. Tax was very high. Unemployment for the youth, 47%. Average national is 40%. The corruption was rampant and running amok. And diaspora were not getting the kind of attention because they want to come back and give back to their communities. But the barriers were so many. So performance generally wasn't up to par, given what I have seen internationally. So I wanted to come and talk to the people. And one time when I met student leaders at Management University of Africa, they asked me, they told me, your kind of brains and the kind of aspiration, the passion to change things and put the country back on course could not be wasted. I accepted.
Okay.
Yes.
So, and we'll get into the issues in a moment. But I first want to ask you why you believe you are different from all of the others in the race. There's 8 presidential candidates. What distinguishes you from the others? You're also an independent presidential candidate, choosing not to align yourself with any political party registered in the country. Why are you different? We've heard so much from the others. And we'll get to your manifesto as well in a moment, because this has been the week of manifesto launches, particularly by, NASA and Jubilee. But why are you different from the others?
Thank you for that question, because I can almost confidently say that I am pretty much the original independent candidate. I have never been affiliated to any party. I never sought party affiliation, and I sought straight on a path to be independent candidate. I had studied enough to see what happens in the parties when it comes to nominations. So being a president calls for good judgment. That was good judgment. A lot of independent candidates came back on board after the nominations became tough or tough things happened in the party. No, I was steady, made the right judgment from the beginning. Now, to your question why I believe I'm the one. First, I am not a career politician. Therefore, the issues that affect the career politicians do not affect me.
But some say that could be a disadvantage.
They could be, if the
that you don't understand the political landscape, because in as much as it is about service, but it's also about learning how to navigate the politics of it, which you will undoubtedly have to do if you become president.
And that would be wrong in the sense that I have served I have given consultation services to other governments. I've worked with other governments, including Nigeria, and I'm not guessing. You can go to YouTube. I've trained trade unions from Nigeria coming to consult with me. I've consulted with other governments, that's First World, State of New Jersey. I was the only scientific business planning person in the state of New Jersey. I've seen the First World. I've seen the Third World countries, not only in Kenya. I have worked with other Deans Abadi from Ethiopia and other people. So when it comes to the landscape, and I have been here talking to people, collecting, doing what we call needs assessment. A lot of politicians just go out there and ask to be elected. I had to take almost 5 years doing what we call needs assessment, so that I can understand the people's needs, and therefore I can navigate, I understand them, I understand the political landscape in Africa, in Kenya, and even the First World. Therefore, I can be able to go through, and to complete your question, I am uncompromised, non-career politician, and I do not belong to interest groups, nor do I allege my allegiance to anyone. I only I confess, only one kind of people in Kenya, one group, the Kenyan people, who I will be accountable to, the people I will report to, and I will be thinking about it. When I sleep in the State House and when I wake up, I will be thinking about them.
All right, so let's get to know a little bit more about you. But before we even get to that story that we have compiled, because we had our reporters speak with you a little earlier in the day, but you are from the diaspora, and you've been in and out of the country over the last year just 10 times. Are you parachuting in and out? Is this leadership by remote control? Do you believe that that could be a disadvantage for you in terms of interacting with Kenyans and understanding their needs, and in terms of them understanding you? Because when we ask this question on Twitter, people ask, who is he?
Exactly the point.
People don't know you.
Thank you. That's exactly the point. And that's why we'd like to have media cover every presidential candidate. If we are not covered in equal time, they may not know me. I start those people who have worked with me on the ground.
But certainly, it's your interactions with the people, whether the media is there or not.
Yes. So the people, and that's where I was going with this, the people I have worked with on the ground know that I exist. The people who have high taxes, the people I talk to on a daily basis, who give me the confidence and the passion to work with the youth, the 47% unemployment, those are the people who know I exist. I am on charts around the country. I've spoken, I've played basketball, which I'm very passionate with Nairobi University. I've kind of a promise with the Management University, the Multimedia University, and I've interacted with Kenyans. I have interacted with diaspora as well. My advantage to that is that if you say that being in Kenya is high taxes, being in Kenya constantly is high corruption, lack of diaspora participation, lack of employment, then I'm guilty. But if I go and learn how to do things right by going globally, I'm one of the, and that's what they say, you can Google it, that one of the well-rated motivational speaker in the United States, top black speaker. If I am guilty of looking for information across the world, going to learn the better systems and trying to transform them to this country so that I can reduce the corruption, so that I can reduce unemployment, I am guilty. And I want to reduce that being guilty for going to learn the right stuff and translating them to here.
Okay, guilty as charged, he says. That's Dr. Japhet Kaluyu Kavinga. Yes. He is an independent presidential candidate in the August 2017 election in the country that's coming up in 40 days. But so we will get to the issues in just a moment, Dr. But if you're wondering who he is, if you're one of the few people, like he says, does not know who he is, take a look at this story. It might enlighten you.
Quite frankly, 35 minutes of intense work.
He looks like the ordinary man next door. A game of basketball being his favorite pastime activity.
Nobody's going to explain to me.
But 50-year-old Dr. Japheth Kaluyu, a father of two, is a simple man with a great ambition. An ambition that translates to the confidence he oozes out when he speaks.
This nation can be led differently. We can be a shining city on the hill and a beacon of hope and a gateway to Africa.
Dr. Jeff, as he is mostly referred to, is eyeing the top seat in the country in the August general election. Despite being a diaspora candidate after having spent his productive years in the United States, he traces his roots to Kitui County, where his fond memories are those of his grandfather.
My parents used to leave me with my grandfather because they had nowhere to leave me. So I thought they encouraged me, telling me, going to graze cattle is fun and all those kind of things. So it is the modern day child care. So my grandfather kept on, going with me every morning. I thought it was fun. Sometimes I was very little. I would hold the tail on the sand along the river and it would pull me. How foolish could that be?
Coming from a humble background characterized by farming and herding, the St. Charles Lwanga High School alumni believes his hard work has offered him opportunities that he would have otherwise never got. A trait that he carried with him to the United States soon after completing his high school education.
I went for further studies. That was the basic focus in going abroad. I have a bachelor's degree in finance and economics, and I have a master's in finance economics from NJIT. And after that, I went to medical school for 5.5 years, where I concentrated on health research and policy, specifically concentrating on HIV research.
His interest in politics began 5 years ago, an interest that saw him frequent Kenya and engage with other like-minded individuals. Former Lands and Housing Minister Charity Ngilu, former Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly Farah Maalim, and Kenya's top diplomat, Ambassador Amina Mohammed, among others.
I wanted to discover what we call needs assessment. What are most important things for Kenya, and what is the gap? This is the leadership. This is where we are. This is what people want.
However, his decision to venture into political battlefield was inspired last year when he, among other speakers, attended a conference at the Management University of Africa that brought together student leaders from 21 universities in Kenya.
I wanted to change their lives, but instead, they changed my life. Their dreams became my dreams. Their challenges, mine. My aspirations were theirs. I embarked on a journey so that I can be able to pursue a road where these kids wanted just nothing, but they wanted opportunity. They wanted to be recognized for what they want. And therefore, I wanted so much to give it to them.
He appears to be new to politics, but is quick to assure that he understands the political game.
I talked to different people from different countries, and they started consulting with me. I have trained them to go back to their countries. They have come back 3-4 times for more because they went applied, it was successful.
So far, he has engaged with the youth in community activities as he believes in empowering the youth in the country.
Tunadai Dr. Jeff ape Kenya's diagnosis. Hatutaki politicians, tunadai viongozi.
Understanding Dr. Japheth Kaluyu, the presidential candidate, requires one to understand Jeff, the campus dean, the motivational speaker, the writer, and a youth champion, all part of making a composite picture of a hopeful political game changer.
Okay, sasa ni kupanga kazi, ndio to win this thing we cannot get it wrong. So lazima hii ni yetu, si ndio? Shambamba. Niaje wazito, weka uzito. Boom.
All right, so Dr. Jeff Kaluyu. That's a little bit more about him. Please continue to send us your feedback. The hashtag is Meet the President at KTN News, at Yvonne Okwara, still here with the independent presidential candidate. So let's get straight into the issues. Corruption has been a big one. You've mentioned that when we spoke, when we started this conversation. Success seems to have eluded so many before you. So first of all, before I even ask you what your plan is, I'd like to know what your assessment has been of President Uhuru Kenyatta's fight against corruption, his predecessors, and what you think you would be able to do differently?
So I am the kind of candidate, and I want to be very clear that I respect all other presidential candidates, and I have advocated for that kind of high purpose where people respect each other and high ethics. That way, the whole world is watching how we call our president His Excellency, and I would like people to be respectful to all seats, because those who win, and I hope I get to be the person to win, I would like to be awarded the respect instead of calling names and disrespecting the president, and then he is still in the world stage. President Kenyatta has done some of things that are right, and
what's
I would
he
like
done
to
that's
say,
right?
well, he has, well, there could be half and half on international front. Is good. He's rated good on the international.
On corruption.
Yeah.
First.
Okay. In corruption
Yes,
specifically,
yes.
he has tried. He has tried to put the measures, trying to suspend cabinet secretaries who have been associated with it, immediately. But I don't think that is enough. We can go further. Corruption, we are ranked number 3 in the world. We can only talk about results, not just what we are doing. Because if you are doing and we are still being ranked number 3 in the world, then there's a little gap in there. We like to lower that.
And what's that gap?
Because there needs to be a political will. I am uncompromised. I'm not a political career. As you stay in the politics for a while, you gain some political capital
But
of certain.
yes. You've said he's done quite well. He's asked a number of his cabinet members to step aside.
Yes.
Is that not political will?
I have said it's not enough. Just because you are doing the best you can doesn't mean that is enough.
So
doing
what
the
more
best,
specifically?
Specifically, we would like, first of all, because I'm not compromised, I don't belong to cartels or anything else. Will I have the political will? I will prosecute.
Are others compromised?
I would not know, because I can only speak for myself. What I can say is that when a political career person is in place, over time you collect political baggage.
Okay, you make it seem like political baggage, as you call it, is such a bad thing. If you became president, surely you would gather political baggage, as you put it, over time. No? So you wouldn't continue to be a novice in politics, surely.
So it depends on where you come from. As a matter of fact, given your point that you are talking about, then it is time to get in, because you are talking of down the road. Right now, to finish the corruption, you need a fresh start, you need a fresh candidate and compromised, so that you can clear the corruption. Now,
But I'm looking for specifics as to how you would do it.
We will prosecute the people who do corruption.
And that's not happening now?
We have seen suspensions. But you'll be prosecuted in public, both small fish and big fish. We have seen people mentioned, but we would like the president, if I become the president, I will follow through with all the prosecutions, whether it's small fish or big fish, and corruption will be very effective. There is sometimes you have seen on TV people affected saying that they don't feel they were fairly treated, or they were asked this or that.
So when you say publicly, what does that mean?
What do you mean? Because you read on the newspaper, you see some people who are actually told that the money got lost in education or in elsewhere, and therefore, when you follow through, the issue dies completely.
Okay. So you
that
said,
issue will not die with me.
Yeah, but Daktari, you have said that the president has done the best he could, a fairly good job, and you seem to refrain from openly criticizing him. But there have been over 300 cases.
You are misquoting me. I've said he has done the best he can. That doesn't mean it's enough.
That doesn't mean it's enough.
Yes.
Fair enough.
Yes.
So over 300 cases are currently at the courts with that. The president has formed a multi-agency task force to deal with corruption.
Yes.
He had the State of the Nation address in 2015. Over 175 names, were mentioned in that. So when you're saying you will do more, I think the Kenyans want to know.
Yes.
What more? Are you going to change the laws?
Yes.
What is the specific problem that we have had over time?
Yes.
We've had several commissions. When it was an agency, Kenya Anti-Corruption Commission, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, trying to inject ethics and values into the system.
Yes.
But where do you think exactly is the problem? And why will you be the one to fix it? And how will you do that?
That's very good questions. So we cannot look at the results. First, we are ranked number 3. So, Yvonne, you accept with me that fighting corruption hasn't been effective in Kenya. So if we are ranked number 3, so if we defend what we have done and we are ranked number 3, that's cross purpose. It doesn't make sense. It is we are ranked the worst, and therefore we are doing the best we can. there is a gap. Now, being a fresh start, being a person who is not compromised with a political will, if you think or actually imagining to do corruption or to take government coffers, then you will be fired immediately because that is public money. And you will be prosecuted in public. We will get to know the root cause of what you did, and then you will be sent home.
Dr. To be fair, you're not giving me anything different from what we are seeing now. We have public prosecutions that are happening. People are appearing before public accounts committees of the National Assembly, and it's happening live on television, on radio, for everybody to follow. So I'm wondering,
Yvonne,
what is that different thing that you're going to talk about?
Without necessarily, because...
Is there a problem with our laws, for example?
No,
are they
there
not
isn't.
stringent
There
enough?
isn't a problem with the laws. Yvonne, we have had people mentioned in corruption, and actually, some of them, they go become they seek offices as MCS or something. So we want to make sure that the laws that are in the book are effectively put in place. Magufuli, the President Magufuli, when he went to the office, 3 months into it, things were being cleared. He went to places he actually was active. I am a very active person. I don't have to be told what to be done.
Would you adopt a Magufuli style of leadership?
Some of it, not everything, because there are some that are, good. There is no perfect person. So my kind of leadership will be taking the good, leaving the bad. There are some complaints about...
Which is the good?
The good thing is that I am hands-on. You are not likely to be always advising me. I can assess the situation, problem assessment, and be able to come with good solutions. So, because I have done that. That has been my life. I'm a research scientist. Solving problems, tough problems, that's what I do. And I cut the wood and let the chips fall where they may. So I will not be scared, or I will not be letting anybody get away. You, Yvonne, you live in Kenya. You know there are some small fish that are gotten, they go to jail. There's some big fish that are gotten, they don't go anywhere. If you're in Kenya, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So
okay.
There will be no big fish, there will be no small fish. You break the law, you get the consequences. If you don't like the consequences, don't break the law. There's a new sheriff in town.
Indeed. So let's talk then about the big issue that's been in the country right now, regarding corruption specifically.
Yes.
There's been the Red Card 20 initiative, because you've spoken very categorically and said if you break the law, you face the consequences. Yes. So there's been a push with some big fish, yes, some names on that list, and some civil society organizations have come together to say, yes, these people should not run because there are some serious allegations that are being made against them.
Yes.
What is your position?
The standard will be the same. And it should be actually international standard, because this is, Yvonne, what is happening. The world is watching. We don't live in a fishbowl.
So should they run or should they not run?
They should not run for office. They should not be running for office. Well,
how about innocent until proven guilty?
Exactly.
And the law that
says, read my mind.
And the law that says they must exhaust all options. So what's your?
You read my mind.
Yeah.
If you have been mentioned and there is a probable cause, as you go to court system, you need to step aside, and cases need to come quickly, not to drag on for years.
So they should step aside from running, as
not only running from office as well. If you're cabinet secretary or you hold a high office, the president should be able to suspend you, and until your case is completely. But the cases should not die out or take forever, because when you're suspended, you're still getting your salary, right? Yeah. So you're pretty much taking money from our taxes to pay you. So yes, you will be asked to step aside, and on the integrity part, because the chapter on integrity is very clear that if you have been associated with certain areas or unethical behaviors, you step aside until you are cleared.
Just the mention of it.
Yeah.
A lot of people have been mentioned, including some presidential candidates that we have today that have been mentioned in scandal, some of their co-principals as well. So should they not be running as well?
I said with probable cause. If there is normally before you go to prosecution or anything else, they usually have some basic evidence that is solid enough that leads to say you have a case to answer. If you do not have a case to answer, just by mention, that could be rumors. But you need to have a case to answer, a cause to show that you can have some sort of answering in the court of law. Then if you have some sort of something to answer, then you should step aside. As a matter of fact, this should not be something you are asked to do. You should on your own so that you can hold high ideals. Otherwise, what I'm trying to say is that we are being watched by the world. If we do this and they can see this is happening, they don't want to invest with us. They don't want to come for tourism. And therefore, to hold those ideals and also protect the country, it's not about the individual. The country is higher. And therefore, we usually deny ourselves certain investment opportunities because people are watching. Okay. And that should be the case beyond that individual. And then if that person is cleared and they need to be given time, you need to be cleared before the elections or the IEBC clears you, then it's your duty to get yourself cleared.
But the courts do take quite a bit of time.
No, but we have the courts actually to some extent in the world. There are some goods and bads, but recently we have the senior judges saying that these cases will be cleared very quickly. And since Mutunga was there, the cases were moving very quickly before they were taking forever. So we are going to the right direction. And sometimes if you have a case that is quick because some of the independent candidates, we were talking about signatures, and we took the case to Milimani Court, and it was cleared the following day. If it is stamped case of agency, then it has its agency. So those things, let's give the court. I am the kind of candidate, if President Kenyatta has done some good things, if Raila, the Honorable Raila has done some good things, I give him credit. President as well. If the courts are doing some movement forward, they are doing good things. I'm not the kind of
candidate. But some people have talked about the courts being a barrier to the fight against corruption.
Absolutely, because we are talking of corruption is rampant. When we curtail corruption and it gets into our courts, so judgments are skewed and all that we have heard, all those stories being, spotted around. So, but in terms of where they do it good, where they are speeding the cases, they are stamped, and I'm experienced the stamp of agency, and we had that's how we were cleared as independent candidates. We weren't going to be cleared because we were supposed to have 48,000 signatures. Okay. So there are some things they are doing good, but where they are compromised. And don't put all the judges in the same sack.
Okay.
Some may be compromised.
I would like us to move forward.
I think most of them, they are not compromised.
I'd like us to move forward to the question of the economy. You have said in previous interviews that the one thing you will do once you get into office is to cut taxes.
Yes.
Explain to us the rationale of that in a country where we have consistently missed our targets. The Kenya Revenue Agency, in fact, failed to meet its half-year target for this current financial year by 20 billion shillings. So when you talk about cutting taxes, could you explain to us how that will spur economic growth, in your view?
Yes, that's pretty an easy question on economic sense. But when you talk of targets, there are two areas you have to differentiate. The KRA not being able to collect taxes, that's a different story, because that's collection. You are collecting taxes on already existing subjects who are supposed to pay taxes. You didn't meet targets. That's a different story. That's performance issues and other issues. But we cannot mix that up with economic growth and cutting taxes. We cut taxes. I'm going to be cutting taxes for 3 levels. First, we want to cut taxes for individuals. I trust Kenyans with their money. I want to put money back into people's pockets. Because when you take the money from people's taxes so much, and you hear in Nairobi, the taxes, somebody took the money, corruption, and they ate the money, they get the idea, you know what, someone is eating our money, so we can as well start eating the money. So I'm going to cut taxes so that to the individuals, so that I can be able to put money back into their pocket. Number 2, with the small businesses, they are the engine of economic growth in this country. Big companies, they get a lot of incentives and cuts, and because they need to be able to invest and employ people, they get a lot of taxes, so they don't pay as much taxes, but small businesses are the engine of this.
Well, corporate tax is at about 35%.
The figure is, that's the figure. But I'm saying whether they pay, they are supposed to be that, but how many people are paying? A lot of big companies, they have a lot of incentives to be. But the companies, the people who
So would you cut down then on incentives for the big corporates?
Yes, we will talk about because that's big investments. The middle class, the businesses, the people who toil every day, women who run around in cities, trying to make the ends meet for their husbands because they cannot stay home because their husbands are working, but the money is not enough. We will cut their taxes so that they can be able to continue moving the economy. And small businesses, when we cut their taxes, they are able to do more.
So which level of small businesses are you speaking about?
Yes, small businesses will cut their taxes because they want to do more, because we are talking of at individual level. Then there is the mid-range. The mid-range, they will get tax incentives. If you hire disgruntled youth, because I'm very big in youth, 47% unemployment, we will give tax incentives. If you hire unemployed youth who are homeless, we will give you tax incentives. And we will make sure that your borrowing rates are lower so that we can be able to avail the capital.
And how will you make sure the borrowing rates are lower? Are you talking about an interest gap?
We're going to have a small business administration area of the government that cater for small businesses. In any country...
So the loans will come from the government?
The loans can be guaranteed by the government.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's how it works around the world over, where people are starting the businesses, the economic growth is working. I have been a part of small business administration. The only scientific person who was catering for scientific community in the state of New Jersey. I was an SBA leader. I introduced so many things in that area so that we can be able to move the businesses forward. So I'm sure some of the incentives or some of the policies there, they may have some contribution from me. So I know exactly what I'm talking about. I'll build a special small business area in the government, special to cater for the businesses and move this economy
so this
forward.
is cutting taxes you've talked about for individuals, for the small organizations.
And the mid-range.
And sort of reduce on the incentives for the bigger corporates?
No, so the investments. First of all, investments, foreign and domestic. Investment, we have a lot of companies from outside the country.
Because they would be getting worried right now if you're talking about that they have too many incentives and you want to reduce that.
There's nobody who has spoken to, you're the one who has said too many incentives. I don't know where you got that information from. I didn't say they have too many incentives. I'm saying that I am going to give them incentives so that they can invest in Kenya. We're going to have our communities across the world, including diaspora, our partners that we know we have worked with before, to be able to bring the business over here. We give them the incentives, maybe by location. If you locate in rural areas, we'll give you incentives for being allocated in particular areas. If you hire certain kind of people, we'll give you investments. And we'll also hold the ambassadors responsible to make sure these investments come to the country through performance, by numbers. How many have you brought in and all that kind of stuff.
So let me ask you this, sir, because a lot of people say that the taxes are high because it's a very small number of people that are being taxed in this country. And there have been efforts to widen the tax net, to get the mama mboga in one way or another to come in and pay taxes. And that the problem would be to fix the inefficiencies within the collection, widen the tax net, and reduce on corruption rather than lowering taxes in a country that is already falling short of targets. So if you're lowering taxes, that means there's less revenue coming to the government.
No, that is very simplistic. The way you say it, that mama bogas, we go punish mama bogas. That is a very small. It will never move this country an inch. If you try to get, that is not necessarily true. If you try to move that deal by taking money from the mama bogas, then you are going. First of all, there is a social implication. Government is not a place where you go to punish people. It's a place you have to look at a holistic view of social, economic, political...
But some say if you widen the tax net, then what you would be able to do then is lower the taxes because you have more people paying taxes to the government.
So,
but if you're not widening the tax net, but you're reducing the amount of taxes,
the point.
Where are you going to get that deficit?
And that's a great question. Now, number two, which is the second? I talked about number one for my 6-point plan. Number two is to create economic growth. Which economic growth creates employment? 47%. Youth is about, give me a moment.
Let's talk about that figure. 47% of youth unemployment in the country.
That is an unemployment rate.
Where are you getting that statistic from?
I read quite a bit. So
No, I'd like us to understand that one because it's important when you talk about the debate about unemployment in the country. If you're going to find solutions, then you should use accurate information. So I would like to know where you are getting the information that the youth unemployment rate in the country is 47%.
So that information
Where's your data coming from?
So you look at different statistics like United Nations, you look at different areas. The national average is about 40%, right? The national average is about 40%. And the youth itself as a sector, which is 70%, close to 70% of the population, their unemployment is higher. And those are real figures. If you read
you're talking about the UN.
Yes.
There's a Human Development Report of 2016, that's by the UNDP, that has some interesting statistics which are not. They put Kenya's total unemployment rate, at 9.7%. While the youth, which is a little different from the statistics you're giving us, while the youth unemployment is at 17.6%. And the question I'm asking, and the reason I'm quite fussy about details, is that if you're going to look for solutions, then you would best use accurate information.
Yes, the information
if you even take a look at the census data that gives us an unemployment rate of 9.7%, and this is according to the Kenya Integrated Household Budget Survey of 2015-2016. This is the most recent information. So some would say getting your facts right would be important because that is what will decide where you will put money and how the solutions will be.
Yes, getting your facts right. Actually, not my facts right. Because do you know the people who are captured by an employment factor formula? They are only people who are working and willing to work, and majority of them, they are not captured. There is the real employment intrinsic, and there is employment that we actually see recorded. And the formula, there are people who gave up for over 5 years. They don't look for work. They are no longer factored in that formula. So when you talk of figures that are correct, I'm likely to be more correct than somebody saying...
And it's based on what? You're talking about intrinsic figures, but how do you arrive at your figures? I think that would be important to understand.
To me, it looks like if you... And I challenge you to just Google it. You Google it. You will see these figures when you combine the figures that are being shoot out there by experts. Our
Where are you getting your data from, Dr.
No, I would challenge you to Google
You're a
it.
researcher,
Yeah,
you're a scientist, so surely these are things that will be at your fingertips. Can you tell me where you got the figures from?
I refuse the figure you are saying that it is 9%.
And where is your figure coming from?
The figure is coming from the calculations that is being in forums that I attend.
Which organizations?
What do you mean? There is
Which research organizations are you quoting from?
So it is the research organizations that are there. There is like the diaspora that we research. I have researched myself. If you look at different readings, and I challenge you to Google it. I would challenge you. You see what I'm talking about. So when we talk about this, it's not...
Which research papers, Dr. Because you're talking about diaspora and some research that's been done.
And forums.
Yeah.
And forums that we attend. And I have also challenged you to Google it right now because it is actually a mistake. For someone at this level to say 9% unemployment in Kenya...
So the data from the Kenya Bureau of Standards, it's all off.
I can say it is off because the real unemployment is higher than that. Because you have to understand the formula. The formula captures maybe in the last 1 year of the people willing to work and they were not hired. Therefore, there are people who stopped working 5 years ago. They are no longer working. They gave up. There are also people who may not be wanting to work.
Your point, Dr. has been made. Let's take a quick break. We will come back because I know you're also quite well-versed and educated in the field of health. And I think that's a big question in the country at the moment. So we'll talk about that. Let's take a quick break. You're watching Meet the President. That's the hashtag on Twitter, at KTN News, at Yvonne Okwara. Dr. Jeff Kaluyu Kavinga, who's an independent presidential candidate, is in the hot seat tonight. Will you vote for him is the question we're asking. Keep your comments coming in. We'll be right back.